reality, most online business ideas fail. So if you really want to succeed, you've got.
There's a huge opportunity for you today if you steer clear of the masses and instead just.
And that is why our model stands out for people who actually want serious online income.
And I wish I had known that sooner.
You don't need 1,000 products or viral reels. What you actually need is. Welcome to the Dropship Unlocked podcast. I'm Lewis Smith, the founder of Dropship Unlocked, and with me is our client success coach, James Eardley. Now, when we're not recording podcast episodes or running our own e-commerce businesses, you'll find us helping aspiring entrepreneurs launch their own high-ticket dropshipping stores. So if you're ready to build your own 6 or even 7-figure online business, then head over to dropshipunlocked.com/start. Now, sit back, relax, and let's unlock your potential with the Dropship Unlocked podcast.
Today, we need to cover a big topic, and that is why most online business ideas will fail, but more importantly, why our brand of UK e-commerce that we teach actually works and is working today and is going to continue to work into the future. So we're seeing more people than ever trying to escape the 9-to-5 grind, put their capital to work. But Lewis, a lot of these ideas will just crash and burn, unfortunately. And I think there's a big reason behind this, or a few reasons behind it. So why do you think that so many fail before they even begin?
I think it comes down to how you treat it going into business. If you treat the business like a hobby and not like a business, and so you see it as this like side venture, it's something that you kind of do evenings and weekends, but you don't take it that seriously, then there's very little structure around it. There's no real long-term plan with it. Therefore, there's no urgency. And therefore, you often see people don't take the actions required to make the business into what it needs to become eventually, which is a self-sufficient system that pays you a full-time income and becomes a real defensible business. So I think that's the first thing. It's like the expectation and what people go into it with. You know, what's the long-term vision for it? Are you treating it like a real business? Because don't expect it to pay you like one if you're just treating it like a hobby. And then the other part of that I often see is people will chase trends. Like they'll see something come up on Instagram or TikTok, like this new type of side hustle, whether it's some crypto scheme or some AI thing or some loophole, some like print on demand business model that's like make money overnight. And they get distracted by it. It's like that shiny object syndrome. They see something over there and their head turns and they think, oh, wow, I'm going to go and do that instead. And so you end up with all these kind of half-built ventures, you know, all of these half-completed projects, instead of just pouring your focus into a brand and trying to build credibility around that brand and really getting to know that industry and that brand until it gets to that point of like compounding returns. And so the difficulty with that is that if you are almost like subjected to that constant onslaught of different YouTube ideas, different Instagram feed ideas, stuff coming at you from TikTok, left, right, and center, you become unfocused. And so I think one of the keys to making this work and making sure that you are almost held accountable to sticking with a single business model is investing in a system that is proven, like a step-by-step, like do this, then do this, then do this, a process. And also the mentorship around that, the community, the group coaching, that means that you're not guessing. You know, when you hit something, it's not like you turn into ChatGPT and saying, how do I fix this? What do I do here? What have other people done? And then hoping that AI is going to give you an accurate answer to like your problems when it has no context or none of the nuance and it has no experience as to like whether it's succeeded or not with running a business like this. And then it means you're just really scrambling for information at every turn. And if you want proof of this, if you've ever asked AI, an LLM like ChatGPT something, and then it gives you an answer that you disagree with, and you go back and say, no, actually, that's not true. Watch what it responds with. It will always agree with you, and it will say like, I'll paraphrase, but it will basically say, oh, no, you're totally right. I was wrong in my last answer. In fact, the answer is this. And then if you do the same again and say, no, actually, you're wrong, it will come back and say, oh, you're totally right. Again, I've messed up. It's this. And it's like, well, how can you trust a virtual mentor like that if it's going to be kind of changing direction? So I think that's why it's so important to have a proven group of humans that can stop you from having to guess at every turn and feel like you're winging it, and actually say, I need a like solid, honest answer at this point because I'm not sure which direction to take. And they can just say, we've seen so many people do it this way. This is the way to do it next. And that just keeps you on the path.
And I think people are going to always stay congruent with their beliefs, and they'll teach you exactly what's worked for them. Whereas an AI, as you say, it's teaching based on its best guess to trying to please you with the questions that you're asking it. So you can't trust an AI as a trainer or a mentor to get you through something. But it all taps into that mindset that people go into it with. And I agree. I've seen it in examples of friends around me where they've tried a business idea online, but they've always approached it half-heartedly. And I think it's mainly a defense mechanism, because if they go all in and it fails, it would hurt them a lot more. So they go in half-heartedly, trying it, seeing if it'll work, saying, I wonder if this dropshipping thing works, or any other business model that they have seen flash up online that day or that month. And if it doesn't work, then they can always fall back and say, well, I never really gave it a go. It doesn't work. It wasn't me. But you're really just shooting yourself in the foot by trying to defend yourself. You never go fully into it, and then you're never going to succeed unless you go for it and be more vulnerable and take down the barriers and really push for something to work. And from my own story, I dabbled, watched YouTube, created a few burner online dropshipping stores, completely failed at them all until I invested in mentorship, as you say, Lewis. It just follows exactly as you say. When I invested in something that I could learn from people that had already achieved what I wanted to achieve, I then took it that much more seriously and achieved and have done over £1.5 million with my e-commerce business. It's just because I took it very seriously and I went for it. So we've explained the mindset that you need to go into it with. And we've also done episodes where we've explained how to make sure you don't fail. And a good one is episode 141, where we dive into a bit more depth as to how you set up this type of business model. So a great companion after listening to this one. But let's talk about those expectations that you mentioned there, Lewis, that there's these flashy trends, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, and they set these expectations for people. And so then I think some people come into starting a business with unrealistic expectations. So do you agree? And if so, where do you think these expectations come from, and how do we reset them?
Well, it's easy views, isn't it? It's easy clicks. If people can say like, I've just discovered this amazing side hustle and you're not going to believe it. It's so simple. Watch this. Like, how many times have you heard that hook at the beginning of a reel? And then before you know it, you're kind of halfway down this rabbit hole of like, oh, I've got to do what? And list like AI generated stuff and then put these on another platform and try and sell it. And like, it kind of all falls apart when you actually start to try and execute. But by that point, the person's gone. They got their view, they got their click, and it was like what the algorithm wanted to show you. So I think it's constantly seeing that we're being sold this false dream of like the laptop lifestyle overnight, but you never really showed the actual like brutal truth of setting it up, hitting those brick walls, failing along the way. And that's the reality of business. Like, it's not a linear path where everything just goes smoothly from start to finish. You will hit problems along the way. And I think sometimes people underestimate the learning curve and how steep that curve can be in terms of like, putting it into the context of starting an e-commerce business, as selling physical products online using the model that we teach. Where it's like, well, the niche research process, or getting approved with suppliers when you're trying to sign new suppliers based in the same country as where your customers are going to be based, or running your ads. Like, each part of this is a real business, and it's really important that you have someone that can show you the full like click by click, step by step, what to say process, and also the things to do when it goes wrong inevitably, and when it doesn't work, and where to pivot and where to turn, rather than just the kind of soundbite snapshot that you might get on a social media reel and then it's gone the next minute. That's like that fleeting surface level advice that's just not particularly helpful. So I think it's really important to just realize with a business like this, it's front loaded effort. You have got to put in the time. We're not going to shy away from that. We're going to tell you it straight as it is, because we've both done it ourselves and are continuing to do it. And it is difficult at times. It's a lot easier though when you have a community around you of other people who can answer the questions that you will run into inevitably as you go. But the nice thing about it is that it's then leveraged. So it's not like you're doing this same level of hard graft forever. Yes, you've got to put a bit of time in at the beginning. Yes, it will probably be a few mornings or evenings of work before you are, before your day job or after you get back. And you might be balancing it with other things. But once it hits the point where it's generating you a replacement for your income, And you think, well, I can now go full time on this. I could hire a virtual assistant to come in and do all of the stuff that I was doing previously. You've then freed up your time. You've created an asset that can pay you and even pay, say, a team member, or pay for some tools, some AI tools within the business to help you keep it running. And after those first few months of putting that time in, the systems can start to work for you. So it's a really important thing to notice that, like, the curve on the graph goes, yes, it's a hard amount of work at the beginning, but then gradually that tapers off. And if you imagine the income from the business goes up as well. So you're kind of seeing that like steady rise of the income from the business as your time input goes down, if you've set it up correctly with the right systems and have created the right leverage, which is what we want from this kind of business. If you're looking for a lifestyle first business, then you don't want another job that you're spending 12 hours a day slaving into, putting all your time into, only to then realize like you've created the thing you were trying to escape in the first place. So we want systems to give us back the time, which to me is the most valuable currency of all.
Absolutely. Yeah, the rewards are very real, but only for those people that can push through the difficult times, the messy times when things don't go exactly as planned. But I think it's important that we share that on the podcast, Lewis, because although we know how the game works online with the algorithm and getting more clicks, I don't think we should lean too much into that, because it really resonated with me when I first came across your ads, Lewis, and watching Dropship Unlocked videos online. What resonated was that you made it very clear that it was going to be difficult and that it wasn't a get rich quick scheme. And I actually wanted to hear that, even though that's not what the algorithm thought I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that it was going to be tough, and somebody to tell me, honestly, it's going to be a business that you're going to create. And of course, there's going to be challenges to overcome, and you'll have to step out your comfort zone to call a supplier, or you'll have to spend time after work building a Shopify site, or choose products to sell when you've got no idea what to sell. But I wanted to know, I didn't want to be sold a dream. I wanted to know that the rewards were there, so I could see the lifestyle that you'd built for yourself. But I also needed to know that it wasn't going to be handed to me on a plate, because I knew that those things don't exist. And sometimes it's easy to be sold that because it works for platforms like Instagram or YouTube for people to sell that and serve it on a plate as a get rich quick scheme. And something I think you've mentioned in the past, Lewis, is you've called YouTube a YouTube university that some people go to and graduate at and try and build a business completely off the back of these free YouTube videos. But I think it only takes you so far. So, I mean, from your experience, or from experience that you've seen other people when they've gone and tried to do this, when they've gone to do a DIY course where they've watched YouTube and then they're left to their own devices to try and follow a YouTube video, what have you seen happen? And do you think that that one-to-one is crucial, or do you think people can go and do it themselves?
So I actually think it's really important to hear that genuine perspective, and people find that quite refreshing, I think, don't they, when they hear like, it actually, yes, it is a simple step-by-step process, but that doesn't make it easy. That still means you'll need to show up and do the work. And that's important, because not only are we then not misaligning expectations with people who come into the program, but we're also getting the right people who join, who are coming in and they're like, I'm ready to do this. And I know it's going to be hard, but I also know the alternative of working a job right up until retirement and never having any free time along the way to do what I want or call the shots in my life is also going to be hard. So it's like, well, pick your type of difficult then, because both paths are difficult, but it's a case of like, when do you want to make that jump into doing something difficult that is for yourself, that is front loaded and gives you back that time? So I think it's important not to hide it, because actually it still can give you the lifestyle that all of the Instagram reels and TikTok reels that are selling this approach talk about. It can actually do that. That bit I don't believe is fake, because eventually, yeah, you have your time. You can go and do whatever you want with your time and show it on social media however you choose to. But it's the bit leading up to that I think sometimes people like brush under the rug, and they're like, oh yeah, just do this, this, and this, and then you'll be able to like travel the world and be free and do it. And we're like, well, actually, no, let's lead with that bit. Yeah, that's amazing. That's the end goal that we're aiming for, so that you have that free time to go and do whatever you want. If that for you means like picking your children up from school, doing the school run, being able to take them to football practice at the weekend, being able to take a holiday without asking a boss, being able to travel to other parts of the world and take your family on like 6-month holidays, or whatever it is you want to do, like that's your reason for doing it. But let's just also focus a little bit on like the journey and pathway to getting there, because it's not something that you just click your fingers and it happens, but it can be a very repeatable, very simple process. So it's not too good to be true. I think that's the thing. Sometimes people are like, this sounds amazing. It's too good to be true. So I'm trying to say, like, actually, no, there are hard times at the beginning, but it is very good. So that's the message I try and convey. But yeah, I think with regarding like trying to learn everything off YouTube, the danger with it is that it's the same as like we talked about, you're getting this surface level information, you're getting the cherry picked bits that they want to share on YouTube. And the most dangerous bit of all really is you don't then know where to turn when you get stuck. Sure, you can go on YouTube and be like, search for a video about, I don't know, whatever the problem you're facing is, and hope that someone out there has the right perspective that is proven trustworthy and can help you with that video. And maybe you find it, but what are the chances that it's going to be perfect for your situation? It's all very contextual, this stuff. And I think if you don't know where to turn at various points along the way, it's difficult to know sometimes even what questions to ask, let alone who to ask them to and who to trust. This is like, you see evidence of this inside our mentorship program at Dropship Unlocked, where someone who's quite new to the program will join one of our twice weekly coaching calls that we do, sometimes 3 times a week. And they'll be there and they won't say anything on the call. They'll just be listening in and they'll hear a couple of other members' questions. And then they'll chime up and say, I'm new. I didn't even know that I should be thinking about those questions, but those are really valuable. And actually now I feel a lot more prepared going into the next phase of my journey, having heard the answers to people's questions who are a bit further ahead than me. So it's like being able to see into your own future and know what challenges you're going to face and also have the roadmap to navigate them. So it's such a valuable way of going about business rather than just like hoping that every time you hit a brick wall, you go to AI or you go to YouTube, you do a search and hopefully the answer is 100% what you need and accurate. It's very, very unlikely to be the case. So I think that's why that contextual, small room mentorship where you're in a group, you can speak, you can give the actual stats and the information about your situation is really important. And having real humans who are willing to defend their position, not just roll over and kind of give you whatever you want to hear, but actually say, no, this is the way to do it. Even if that's not what you want to hear, this is the right approach. And so then at least you're removing 90% of the friction, because then you've just got a nice clear path to follow.
Yeah, that's the way we've designed the Dropship Unlocked Masterclass. It's to have the clear roadmap to follow, the step-by-step guides. But then the way that we learn as humans is that we need to then understand why we're doing certain things. And I think that's when the Q&A call come in really handy. If you don't know why you're doing it a certain way, you haven't just got to be given a set of videos and just do that and not be told why. Then you're left with all these questions. We can answer that, explain the way through it, because we've got our own lived experience of building these businesses ourselves and running them still to this day. And also the Q&A point is really interesting because we do Q&A calls so regularly, and at least 2 a week, that oftentimes people realize that they don't have a question in mind when the next Q&A call comes around. And so for those situations, people just jump on the calls then, and then sometimes they'll speak to me and they'll ask some questions, or they'll explain where they're at if they don't have a question, and then I can pull questions out of them of the situation that they're at, because I know what they're about to work through, or what's the best way to approach that specific situation inside the program while they're building their business. So yeah, I think that's only there because we've got the community aspect that allows people to just explain the situation and get the questions pulled out rather than needing to know what to ask the whole way through. Whereas YouTube, that search bar will stare back at you if you don't know the right questions to ask. It's not going to suggest a question that is exactly relevant for the type of business that you're building and the specific situation that you're at when you're building that business as well. So I think that's a big reason as to why people may have come to us and failed at different business models in the past and tried things and been burnt and probably lost some confidence in that process. So for those people then, Lewis, what would you say to someone who's feeling a lack of confidence? Maybe they failed something in the past. What would you say to them to build them back up and hopefully put them in the right direction?
That we get it. We can empathize with that because that has been our experience as well. We've lived that. We've been through that, where it's super frustrating. You've tried everything. It's not through lack of effort that you failed. It's just that you can't quite figure out, like, everything you seem to try is not working. And sometimes it's because the system is like rigged against you. It's the model that you're trying to make work is fundamentally flawed. Like the maths, the economics of it just don't stack up in your favor. So you can pour as much time and effort and money into it as possible. But if you're following a flawed strategy and the model is not proven, it makes it 10 times harder. Versus if you have a very proven, very data-driven, very step-by-step approach and structure, along with the right support along the way, you end up finding every step of the way a lot easier because you think, well, there's so much less friction. And later on, people are like, I see why now, back at the beginning of this program, you had me do this, this, and this, because now I need those things. And I'd be thinking like, well, where do I even go for this? But we set it all up earlier. And so that's why everything's in a sequential order, not to get anyone overwhelmed, but just to make sure that as those problems unfold, which they will, the answers are right there in front of you. So don't confuse failure, if that's what you want to call it, and that's what you feel like you've experienced so far with the online business. Don't confuse that with a bad model, because maybe you just didn't have the right structure, the right support in place when you did it. That doesn't mean there was anything wrong with you. It could just be the model that you were following. The other thing is with the approach that we use, which is like domestic, so in our case, UK brand first, it gives you that credibility and control. So it gives you a brand that you're building that you can really stand behind and be proud of and know that you have longevity in the company that you're creating. So that's really important because you're not just chasing the next flash in the pan trend and then hoping that tomorrow there's another trending product that you can build your whole business up from. You're not like following these huge waves. You're trying to build something that just lasts and compounds and grows over time because you want that steady income coming in once you have this business. That's really good for peace of mind. So it's not too late to start. If you want to pivot and now do it properly and have a clear path and real guidance, and you're curious about how our model, the trademarked model that we have, the home turf advantage that we teach at Dropship Unlocked works, and you want to see the roadmap that we've mentioned, you can get started by heading over to dropshipunlocked.com/start.
Are you enjoying the podcast? We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a review and we might feature it in an upcoming episode. And for detailed show notes and resources, visit dropshipunlocked.com/podcast.
If you found value in any episode of this podcast, please could you take just 10 seconds to leave us a quick 5-star review on your favorite podcast app? It helps us more than you can imagine. And who knows, you might just hear your comments read out on the show. Thanks for being a part of our community. Your support helps us keep delivering new episodes to you every week.
Now, it's that part of the podcast where we're going to answer a question that we've received from a listener. So if you've had any questions that have come up while you've been listening or watching today's episode, then all you need to do is leave a comment beneath the YouTube video version of the episode, and we'll answer it in the comments, but we might also feature it in an upcoming episode. So that is exactly what Oral has done. He's asked a great question. So I'm going to put it to you now, Lewis. He's asked, how can I differentiate from competitors and provide real value so customers choose me?
Yeah, it's a great question, Oral. And I think there's a few different ways you could think about this. So first one that springs to mind for me is customer service. Just being willing to answer the phone and help a customer will, and when I say help, I don't mean be a product expert, because you might not be an expert on the products you sell, but just be willing to be friendly and helpful and be like, I'll listen to you and I will try and find out the answer to your question. And then you just go and ask your suppliers the answer and then you report back to them. Like just being able to and willing to do that will set you above, probably at least 50% of the market out there that don't do that. So I think that's the first easy win and differentiator that you can have. It's the actual level of customer support, whether that's through live chat or phone support or email. The second, though, is without dropping the price, so without trying to compete on price, which I don't really agree with, and I think is just a dangerous race to the bottom where we just erode away all of our profit margin, which you don't really want to be doing, is to try and stack up the value. So rather than decrease the price, can we just make the value associated with that sale higher so it seems like a better deal in relation to the same price as it was? And so examples of how you could do that might be including value add items, whether that's like a PDF buyer's guide of the products that you get as a free gift for joining or for purchasing, or perhaps it's accessories. that you could bundle in and give away as like a free gift when you order this item. Often those gifts can be very cheaply sourced and actually sourced from the same supplier that sell the product. So you just bundle the two together, and every time, the supplier ships out this item, you just say, could you also ship out this smaller item? And remember that, if you're selling a £2,000 high-end gas burner barbecue and you give away a set of barbecue tongs for free that cost you £20, well, you've probably just made £600 in profit on that order at a 30% profit margin. So giving away the tongs for 20 quid is nothing, right? But it closes you the sale. So that's really important. And other things are like installation walkthroughs, so like educational video content. And just try and think what would make this a no-brainer in terms of increasing that perceived value. So yeah, in terms of like pre-sale, things you can do to try and make sure you close that deal: buyer's guides, comparison tools, video education, product quizzes, whatever you can do to educate the customer, whether that's through your email sequence that we talk you through prior to the sale, or just building your authority in that niche so that you are the go-to company that they'll come to. One of the things that I would mention, Oral, is to get the website to be mobile friendly and speed optimized so that it's really fast, easy to load. The amount of websites that don't bother to do that and therefore give their users a subpar experience is huge. So if you can just do that, again, you're then setting yourself apart. And try and make it so that your website is built for one product category. It's not a generic e-commerce store where you've got loads of different items and it just looks like a mishmash of products. You want customers to feel at home and trustworthy, and running things like retargeting ads across the Meta platform and across the Google platform means that in itself, visibility of your brand is a differentiator, because you will be the one front of mind, i.e. differentiated from others, because they've seen you 10 times in the last week, and therefore they choose to buy from you. So there's all those ways you can do it. Don't feel you just have to discount on price. Good luck with the process, and let us know if we can help.
Fantastic. Yeah, great question. And loads of ways there to differentiate yourself. Even if you're selling the same products as a competitor, there are so many ways that you can add more value, as Lewis explains, and therefore win the sales, which is music to our ears. So fantastic. Thank you for your question. And now we're going to highlight a recent review that we've had for the podcast as well. And that has come in the form of a YouTube comment from long-term listener to the podcast, Diana811. So Diana said, so true when referring to a previous episode. And she said, step by step, little by little, following the masterclass consistently leads to success. Thank you, Dropship Unlocked.
Thank you so much for your review, Diana. It means a huge amount to us. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap up today, I'd love to ask a quick favor of you. If you're listening to this today and you found any of those tips helpful and you thought, actually, that was good, would you leave us a quick review for this episode? You can leave us a comment on YouTube or review us on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you listen to us, your feedback really helps us reach more listeners and keep improving our content. Plus, we'll even try and read out your comment or review on our next episode.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast. We hope you are leaving with new insights and inspiration to fuel your entrepreneurial journey.
To kickstart your e-commerce business, head over to dropshipunlocked.com/start. It's the perfect place to start and get access to resources that will help you build your business from the ground up.
And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more episodes packed with strategies, tips, and success stories. Plus, if you enjoyed this episode today, a 5-star review would mean the world to us, and you might even get a shout out on the next episode.
Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us today. We can't wait to bring you more insights on the next episode of the Dropship Unlocked podcast.